Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the In-Training webinar put on by InAlliance. The title of today's webinar is Many Kids Want to Be Their Own Boss Someday. Which ones can? It's a youth entrepreneurship in small rural communities webinar to give insight on how the community can assist in developing the youth entrepreneurial mindset. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. You will be able to interact with me if you have voice over IP. In other words, if you have a mic and speakers, you will be able to ask questions from me. There is also a phone number that was provided to you at the beginning that you can call in and use your phone over if you don't want to use your microphone. You can also type in your questions, which I might just experience with using these. It does seem to work the best. It's very simple. Just raise your hand on your control panel, and I will answer any questions I can. I typically do wait until the end of the webinar. The webinar will last about 30 minutes, and I'll take questions after that. So if I feel that there's some pertinent questions, you can go ahead and raise your hand and type in your questions. I'll go ahead and look at them, but typically questions are answered at the end. Okay. If you have any questions after this webinar, you can contact me, Todd Tracy, at area code 618-237-2407, and my email is todd@inalliance.biz. This webinar will be recorded. It will be available to you in about 48 hours, so if you want to go back and look at it later, you're more than welcome to do that. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. In training webinars, there will be we have about a dozen right now on the docket between now and August that will be providing by myself and my partners. Each will be 30 minutes long with roughly 15 minutes of questions at the end. All of them at this point are free for you to attend, so please share these webinars with others that you think might be interested in the topics. Right now, we are, because of our client base has been most interested in these two topics, we've put together 6 webinars on youth entrepreneurship in rural communities, as well as some design and historic guidelines for historic downtowns. So those will be the 2 topic webinars. Feel free in the future, if you have a webinar that you think that that InAlliance would be a good fit for us to produce, give us a buzz, and we'll see what we can do about putting together something for you. To look at our other webinars, just visit inalliance.biz, click on the In Training tab. There are many challenges today with youth entrepreneurship and getting it launched. United States is well behind the curve in developing youth entrepreneurs in correlation with other developed countries. Much of the attitude really that is taking place right now is there's a lot of social and cultural attitudes toward young entrepreneurs. They're viewed as kids, and as such, kids a lot of times are viewed as adults, as not having the experience and to be able to pull off their ideas and to be successful in their ventures. This is by far the #1 stigma that youth entrepreneurs that I have worked with over the past several years have told me has been a barrier to their success. Of course, they're not being taken seriously by their colleagues and other business contacts. Age discrimination by suppliers and customers. Difficulty in attracting funding to their business. And there's twofold here. The funding issues, if they go for conventional financing, I have to say that for the most part, conventional lending institutions have always evaluated a youth entrepreneurial business plan as though it were a business plan and don't put a connotation, because they are governed by federal banking guidelines. And of course, discrimination for age is something that they are not allowed to do. So it a lot of times does have to be the business plan has to be put together and meet the 5 to 6 C's of lending as it would in any other situation. Of course, the perception of the age is a limitation by the lending institutions. I have to say that there is a perception, and lending institutions do look very closely at those 6 C's to make sure that they are in place, because there is oftentimes an inexperience level of the potential borrower. And of course, one reason that a lot of times youth entrepreneurs are challenged to move forward is they have lack of support from their family and friends, which is a lot of times where their financial and technical resources are first going to come from. Why your community needs a Kids Biz? It's very straightforward. More and more and more kids are wanting to look at their community, and they look for opportunities to volunteer, and they look for ways of getting involved with their community as best as they possibly can. Entrepreneurs, from the kid perspective, gives them the experience that they need to show that there is value in what they have, and they're able to give it back to the community as well as the community is able to give back to them. These locally owned businesses are going to return you a lot more share of revenue back to the community. Federal SBA guidelines has demonstrated, as well as the National Trust Main Street Center has seen, that locally run businesses give back anywhere between 14 and 16% to their community by way of job creation, tax base, as well as many other intrinsic values. And we also find that oftentimes when businesses are franchised owned and or the business owner does not reside in the community, that number is almost between 1 and 3% is actually given back to the community. So it's a good thing from a small community perspective, is to grow internally. And of course, one of the primary reasons is that if youth are given a way of staying in their community, many kids, especially after high school and college, don't return home except to see family and friends once a year. But if they see that there is a viability of staying in their community, they're going to spend a lot. They're going to spend a lot more time there, and it's going to be a lot more difficult for them to move and or even want to move. And don't forget that a typical entrepreneur is going to expand the population and maintain the population by 3, because they typically take a spouse and have at least 1 child. Job creation, of course, we can't forget that. Creating small business and having it run by youth entrepreneurs is another job created. The reason communities should get behind promoting youth entrepreneurship is, for one, it's going to have more employers with ties to your community. We have many communities throughout the nation, small communities that were started by entrepreneurs and have built an exceptional base of employees for their community. As you can remember, the family furniture store is handed down from parent to child, the car dealership that's handed down from parent to child, manufacturing, warehousing, tons and tons and tons of examples across America where that entrepreneurs grew from within in the community and never left the community and continue to reinvest in the community. Employees who better understand the business. This is a key component of why entrepreneurship should be taught in the school systems, and why a small business management should be taught in school systems, and it's rarely done. And the reason being is that the employees have a better understanding of how business is going to run if they in fact grew up running their own business or having experience in sample businesses running those. Characteristic of an entrepreneur is typically they are innovative. They grow to be very creative and use that creative ability to not only make a product or a service better, but to increase and develop a business that would also be better. Youth entrepreneurs, because they grow up in the system internationally, we have found that they become much more socially responsible in their enterprise. Of course, more jobs. And A lot of times kids will give jobs to other kids, which is always a market in most rural communities that business struggles with, as to where to give that population jobs, and like we mentioned before, they oftentimes move away. And of course, how better of a consumer will you be if you have once been on the other end of it from the selling point of view? So it does, youth entrepreneurs make much better consumers in the future. Starting a business is by no means to achieve the end. As you can see in the little splash screen there, that's a typical statement that's delivered in youth entrepreneurship training. But basically what you're trying to do is not create a business that is successful, but to give them skill sets as leaders and better informed individuals, so that they could be better employed someday, whether it be for themselves or not, is not the goal of any youth entrepreneurship program in rural communities. For youth entrepreneurs, you always want to focus on creating the first and then the business. Allow the child to come up with their own ideas, and as adults and mentors and leaders, all you're doing is helping them make their ideas feasible. The creation is oftentimes it makes the difference between a successful entrepreneur and one that would not find success in their business venture. So let's look at some of the characteristics of a successful youth entrepreneur. Statistically, 1% of the child population is what that you are looking for to participate in a youth entrepreneurship program. And when I mean that, it can be opened up to 25, 50%, 100% of your children population. I might add that the best time that internationally it's been found to introduce children to entrepreneurial ways of thinking is in 5th grade. Could you go younger? Of course you could. And could you go older? Most definitely. But 5th grade through high school, and even 5th grade through college level programs and youth programming typically target 1% of that particular population. But an interesting statistic, according to SBA in 2010, 99.7% of employer firms in U.S. were originally created by this 1%. So you see where statistically it flows through to real life scenarios. Statistically, successful entrepreneurs are not always A/B students, but they're not they're EF students either, so I do want to make that very clear to you. They can be, but typically BC students is where that we find the most part of our creative youth entrepreneurs and grow and go on to be adult entrepreneurs in later life. Why is that being? Well, I'm sure there's many psychological and child psychology studies that are being conducted on this very fact, but one thing that I would like to add to is that sometimes A students are restricted by their ability to have everything in place, to have an order to their system of learning, and of course to be given a grade based upon an outcome. Entrepreneurs, as we know, aren't allowed these outcomes, and a lot of times don't make A's as they progress. As a matter of fact, typical entrepreneurs go through varieties of failures before they ever see a success. And an A student sometimes doesn't have the ability to actually be able to adapt to that of realizing a failure. Typical youth entrepreneurs need to have a support network, and by no means can that support network, is it limited to family. It can go well outside of the family unit. They're creative. They're goal-oriented. They know how to dream, but they know how to take instruction also. And the instruction typically comes from a coordinated list of mentors, which the community can provide in a setting, which we'll talk about later in this presentation. But the most crucial characteristic of a youth entrepreneur is they have a must-win attitude. They just do not know how to not win. When they lose, they take it as a training exercise, and they tweak their ideas, they tweak their process, and they go to the next venture, and hopefully they win at that level in terms of having a successful venture. As we can see, the young kitty cat seeing itself in the mirror as a bold lion and larger than life lion. That tends to be how we see youth entrepreneurs. They're very adaptable. They are able to look at the regiment that has been given to them, and they're able to work within that system. Of course, they are a risk taker. They're willing to hawk everything in order to realize their dreams. They typically are very confident. Most are all very competitive, can be persuasive. And persuasive sometimes is something that a youth entrepreneur has the capability of doing but may not have in the initial stages, but can definitely be taught in sales and leadership trainings in their programming. One thing we know, they typically are very honest. They have a vision also. And of course, their perseverance is beyond none. These are what youth entrepreneurs need in order to be successful in their growing community. They need opportunities to grow and their skill development. And this is a very much of an area that communities can give that supportive design. They have a community that is overall supportive of them, and that means that they accept their failures along with their successes and put them back up on the horse again, and that is very important. Role models and mentors, or champions as they sometimes are called, is very crucial to this. Access to networks, resources, and markets. In later webinars that we will be doing with Alliance, we'll be talking about some of these resources that are needed more in depth, and role models will be one of those topics. These are ways that you can kickstart some youth entrepreneurial thinking within your community. Host business plan competitions. Start an entrepreneurship business club. Entrepreneurship camps. These can be week-long, weekend-long, and of course the up and trending style is virtual camps. Networking sessions with entrepreneurs. Bring in your community business leaders and allow the potential youth entrepreneurs to speak with them on their level in the same social setting. Kids a lot of times feel uncomfortable when they're put on the spot in order to talk about their business idea, and the communication's very one way. It's very important that that a community, if they truly do want to kickstart a youth entrepreneurship program, get eye to eye with the young budding minds. Make them feel that they are an equal. Bring in guest lecturers for entrepreneurs so that they can talk to experienced individuals from outside their community. Use fairs as test beds for products and services. Do a youth business fair, and they get to bring in their products and services to see what sells and see what doesn't sell. Use it as a test medium where they can conduct surveys and focus groups and all that it takes to do their market research. Of course, internships are something that can be financed by a community so that they can have attachments to local companies and learn the inside of running a business. If you're going to do a kids biz camp, and again, these can be done in a variety of ways, and this is just an example. Alliance is prepared to give you a lot more detail on this at a later date. If you wish to contact us, we can give you curriculums and what have you in order to help you get started. Of course, your objective of a biz camp is to introduce children to the business, but most importantly is don't keep it just as a classroom setting as we have in this picture here. Get it to where they can simulate their biz and make sure that they have the ability and all the resources available to them to operate their business. So it's important for them to learn all aspects of a company, whether it be production, management, finance, marketing, human resources. I might add on there team building, leadership. All these are the fundamentals of any business. Of course, the outcome is, again, not to have a successful business, but just to strengthen their critical thinking and their interpersonal skills, which is what is the most crucial of learning for a youth entrepreneur. 4 phases are typically taught in business camps. How the organization is developed, how you develop a business plan, of course how you operate it, and then most importantly, to finish the day, the week, the weekend out, is to liquidate the company and start a new business. That is the difference between an entrepreneur and self-employed. An entrepreneur is a serial business manager, goes from one thing to another. These are some ideas, some product and service ideas. I've got the slide labeled for the children's business camp. But it could be turned into business planning ideas. These could be turned into youth incubator ideas for business, which I'll talk about in a couple of slides from now. But these are some types of products that children typically have been involved in or can be involved in. If they do any type of fundraising for their school, you always have your candy sales, and that is a business. And that definitely is something else that can get in. Vending machines are something that's very popular, and kids, especially with parental and other mentoring support, can get involved with. As you can see, there's just tons of different ideas, and it's endless as to what a child can do. A place that rural communities can really start to demonstrate in a very visual way that they stand behind youth entrepreneurs is to start looking at your vacant building and office utilization. There's virtually any small community in the nation that doesn't have at least one vacant building or an office space that could be used to host a youth entrepreneur business or a incubator. Those can be virtual, but typically I might say that for the visualization, the support, the resource for building, the capacity building for inside a community, they probably need to have some bricks and mortar component to it. The things that youth can do inside these styles of incubators is web design. They can be social networking managers. You say, what exactly is that? Well, many youth that I've talked to some are doing it for free, but some are actually being paid a little bit. They actually set up Facebook accounts, Twitter accounts, and give trainings to especially the elderly generation that has to that they found that that's a way that they keep up with their children and grandchildren's activities through the social networks, but don't really understand what they are, what they're all about, and how better to learn than somebody that grew up inside the social media as the youth of our nation have. Of course, instead of just complete web design, but just updating web content. How many organizations, probably including your own, that you have difficulty maintaining your website and the content that's included on all this? Give this to a student that is entrepreneurial minded and has good writing skills. Of course, babysitting, pet sitting, lawn mowing, all traditional youth type jobs. Build it bigger and badder inside of an incubator system. Shoppers for disabled, the elderly, definitely are ideas of incubated businesses that can take place inside some of your vacant buildings that might be in your community. So where can your community begin? One of the most crucial places to begin is you need to organize the idea and create a youth entrepreneurship plan. Youth, as adults do, but we all know that youth get bored very quickly, and if there is not some sort of structure to the program as to their participation tomorrow may not be as healthy as it would be today. So it's very important that the community develop a youth entrepreneurship plan so that they know how they can tackle the needs of their budding youth entrepreneurs. You need to identify partners and champions. We'll talk about this in a moment, a little bit in detail. But it's very important that you identify all the resource partners in the community that could help out. And of course, a champion is the single individual or handful of individuals that will see to it that it's comes to fruition. Start scheduling events. Look for that 1%. Again, if you don't want to be selective in the process, and you do want to open it up to as many youth as you possibly can, at least have it in a tiered format, to where that people that have a lukewarm and just a passing interest in possibly owning their own business someday or creating their own youth biz, have a program set up for that passive interest, but have the more in-depth and the mentors available to work with that 1%. Of course, we're dealing with business, and any time that we throw that term into any facet of its definition, there is a chance for failure. And it's important that kids understand that their business may not be successful. It's a wonderful learning tool for them to go through that exercise. Create your team of people interested in entrepreneurship. This is typically who makes a good committee and or good we'll call it active team for the children to or for the business plan or the youth business plan to be adaptable in. Look for teachers, other young people, Chamber of Commerce members, small business owners, of course your local SBDCs, incubators, any other small business service providers in your area, and any other service organizations that would like to be a part of this. Bring a member or two from them in, from your Ruitons to your Kiwanis to any other member organizations that you might have. Find out who can help. Look at your community and see what already exists that's out there to support youth-based programs. Are there already youth-based business programs out there? Don't reinvent the wheel. Work with them. Just help them do their program better. Give them more resources. When you're assessing the community, go to your school teachers, your church representatives, all your after-school programs, and don't forget about your community colleges, to look at the community as a whole and see how the community is readily positioned to kickstart a youth entrepreneurship program. Think strategically about all age groups. Many times these groups start for high school age because it's the most adaptable, and that age can tend to take care of itself. Sometimes I have found in working with youth entrepreneurs, the more creative and the more in tune with what the teaching is actually taking place, and the instruction and the planning are more adaptable to the 5th and 6th graders. So don't forget about that age group. You will. I can tell you just from personal experience, a smile on your face will happen every day in working with that age group. You never know what's going to come out of their brilliant minds. Of course, then calculate the number of students to reach. Of course, my theory on this is you're only looking for 1%. I've worked with communities before that definitely want to open this up to as many as possible to get as much mileage out of their programs as possible, and that's fine. Just don't forget that you're really only going to have 1% of that population probably that will truly turn into a valuable entrepreneur for the community as well as for themselves. A champion you must have. This is by far the most crucial aspect of a youth entrepreneurship program. I've never seen a program yet that didn't take a considerable amount of time to get off the ground. And of course, when you're dealing with kids, there's lots of questions, and where you have kids, you have parents, and especially when you working with the younger age children, the under high school age children, parents are very involved in their children's activities and want to be well informed as to what's going on. So it's important that a champion be, if not paid in the position, is very much understands that there's going to be a considerable amount of hours involved with their volunteer aspects. Look to your local school system. I have found that the young, non-tenured teachers who are very aggressive, very active, and of course wanting to demonstrate their abilities inside the school system as well as outside the school system tend to be someone that looks to champion such a program. Look at your local organizations. Are there any existing curriculums that you can build off of? And of course, look at the programs with just outside the community or within the community that has the capacity to add an entrepreneurship program. The after-school programs, of course, are number one, but don't forget about community colleges because they all tend to have business programming. These are some resources. There's many others that you can Google out there. These three entities, the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship, the Kauffman Foundation, and of course the CEE has been the most forthcoming and leaders in encouraging youth entrepreneurship training across a variety of platforms. Okay, I would like to open it up to questions. Again, I have about 15 minutes I'll spend with you on answering any questions that you might have until I see any hands come up. Talk about the programming with InAlliance. Our primary function, of course, is to work with small downtown communities. We work a lot with Main Street districts and outside of Main Street districts. Our purpose is to find ways of revitalizing and helping with the downtown revitalization. This youth entrepreneurship is just one component of that. Okay, I don't see any hands coming up. This is my contact information that you can see on your screen. Our next, we have a variety of webinars coming up, but our next one in the series for the youth entrepreneurship will be held on April the 10th at 1:30 Central Time. Again, it's a free webinar. Will be just the same as this particular session. And it's entitled Youth Biz Need Cool Space 2. And what the premise of that webinar will be is to how you can use that physical space that you may have available for you in your community, how you can make it a correct atmosphere and conducive to youth entrepreneurship development. Invite you to visit inalliance.biz to sign up for that free webinar or any of the other webinars that we have come aboard. With you attending today, of course, if you weren't already on our mailing list, you will be on our mailing list and we'll give notifications when these webinars are taking place. You'll also be giving a survey in about a day or so, as well as a link to this webinar broadcast that you can play again if you'd like at any point in the future. Really encourage you to fill out the survey. Though InAlliance has done webinars before, this is the first time that we have done these in this format. And your critique and advice for either future topics or how we can make these better, we take those to heart, and we will definitely correct that on our next webinars. Enjoy your afternoon. Thank you for your attendance. And if I can be of any service to you in the future, you have my contact information. Have a great day.